sustainability challenge cannot be solved vertically. It has to bring everyone together. So we need to create an ecosystem where everyone is together. What we're trying to do at VeChain, create an ecosystem where all sustainability apps and behavior are brought together into one ecosystem. Either you're working or you're studying, you're learning, because that's a sustainable behavior. You're getting better in anything you do. You're recycling. You're taking the bus. It's your decision, by the way. And you are incentivized for that. And then you're like, hold on a minute. Sustainability is good for me.
Welcome to another episode of the Untangling Web3 Podcast. Today, we're delighted to have Antonio Senatore on our podcast. Antonio serves as the CTO at the VeChain Foundation, where he leads the technical direction team. His background is extensive, with 20 years in blockchain and IT, working for giants like Deloitte, Accenture, and Deutsche Bank. Our discussion today will focus on Antonio's efforts in promoting sustainability in the Web3 ecosystem and his work at VeChain. Antonio, it's a pleasure to welcome you to the show.
Thank you, Alec. It's a pleasure being here. Thank you for having me.
Hi, Antonio. Really nice to have you on the show. How are you doing today?
Hi, Jack. Nice to meet you. I'm good. Thanks. Very excited to be talking to you guys.
Awesome. Yeah, really good to have you on. I think it's a very important topic to discuss around sustainability in Web3. It's often one of the stumbling blocks that people have had around things like Bitcoin and its energy consumption. So I'm really excited to get into what you're doing at VeChain and how you're addressing that. But before we do dive into all that, can you just give us a quick summary of your early career? There are some big names on your CV, as Alex said, Accenture, Deloitte, and the likes. Can you just tell us about what led you into Web3?
Yeah, I'm currently the CTO of VeChain, but as a background, I'm a computer engineer from Milan, Politecnico di Milano. I'm not from Milan, but that's where I got my degree. I studied even high school with a specialization in computer science, so I've been coding since I was probably 14 or something like that. So I'm a technologist by heart, really. My first experience was a bit of a startup, but then was Accenture in Italy. I was more into the technology footprint of Accenture rather than consulting, was delivering back in the days large Java enterprise applications, which was the big thing. Server-side applications, we used to call it. Was the first time where we would see the web transforming itself into delivering application rather than hypertext only, which is relevant to blockchain, by the way, this stuff, because blockchain is an evolution of the web. And then moved to Ireland after many years in Accenture and did a couple of startups where I learned a lot about, again, web services and lightweight applications. How do we deliver services on the web? Effectively? How do we construct services together for many years? Then I moved to Deloitte. For many years in Deloitte I've been 11 years. It's been probably the largest place where I've been to, but also the place where I've been the longest. I was initially leading big data capabilities. Back in the day was a name, was something, big data. It still is. It meant, talk about 2010 until 2021, pretty much, when I left Deloitte. And what I was doing there was, the beginning of data lakes or enterprise data hub that we know nowadays. This idea that you can manage large amount of data, take control of this large amount of data, serve this large amount of data almost in real time or in near real time to many apps and people and users, and actually gain insights, etc. And now I'm at VeChain. But what led me to blockchain? While I was in Deloitte, there were a couple of things. My first experience with blockchain was knowing about Bitcoin, of course, like many of you, but Bitcoin was the first thing. And I didn't know about Bitcoin until 2011. I think it was a case of Assange, Julian Assange, when I heard he was being cut from the financial system effectively, and it was paid in Bitcoin. And I was like, what do you mean? What is it? What is that? And I read about it. Of course, I didn't understand it. I didn't understand the point, really, at the beginning. But what I understood was the censorship resistance aspect of it. The fact that, okay, there's no way to stop this thing. So he's really getting paid in Bitcoin. And he pays his lawyers in Bitcoin, and he has solved the problem. He can do, and then someone can hand him cash, and he can do his shopping. He can do other. So there's no way you can stop that. So their censorship resistance got me. And then while I was doing big data, and trust me, we were doing really large scale big data cluster, the Edward Snowden case came out, the Snowden files came out, which was almost a cry against big data, if you know what I mean. And into those files, Snowden kind of released some interesting big data architecture, which were very similar to things I had done in the past. So I was seeing at that point. And that posed to me the question of, all right, what about data ownership? What about abuse of data? And what about the self-sovereign data? And what about the self-sovereign individual? So the two cases posed two questions for me. Self-sovereign individual, the Assange case. Am I free financially, really, or am I not? The other case put the situation into my head of what are they doing with my data, which then was exposed by Cambridge Analytica case in the UK, guys. You probably know that, and many other cases. So a self-sovereign individual should have financial freedom and freedom of privacy, should have access and property of its data and be able to transact. So that I started questioning the whole model. And at the time in Deloitte was starting looking at crypto as a way to solve, and blockchain solve multiple problems. And David Dalton, who was the head of financial services, I think at the time in Ireland for Deloitte, he had the idea of opening the blockchain lab in Dublin. And he asked me if I wanted to join that effort, because I've always been doing the cutting edge technologies. So he thought about me, and I say, oh, I can't believe, because I was actually looking into this to solve other type of problems as next step, next evolution. How do we bring big data under control? How do we give fair financial access to everyone? And that's when I joined the blockchain lab. It was 2016. So I've been doing blockchain and Web3 since 2016, full time. It's the only thing I've done. 8 years now.
I love that,
Okay.
Antonio. That's such a good character arc. I think that might be the first time I've heard someone directly say that Julian Assange was the first person to make them realize the benefits of having censorship resistance. And then the Edward Snowden case also being like, okay, well, what's actually happening with my data? How are they using it? I want more transparency and ownership over that data. And this is something that I think is slowly coming into the mind of a lot of individuals, especially in the last 5-10 years, because of the Cambridge Analytica scandal that you've talked about in the UK specifically.
Yes.
What I find really interesting is your work at the big tech companies. People often say something that maybe it's a misnomer, that blockchain is a solution looking for a problem, right? But you've worked in the big tech companies. You understand what real world problems are right now. So as a techie, you're a techie at heart, right? What problems in your mind does blockchain solve?
In my mind, there's one, the single one, there's a number of those, okay? But the single one is, to me, is decentralization, which means disintermediation. The ability to transact with peers, and we talk about peer-to-peer network for a reason, because it's peer between peers without a middleman, removing the middleman. So your ability for people to own their digital asset, their digital portfolio, whatever that is, to own their value, and whatever that is, that could be currency, that could be identity, that could be a digital asset of any kind, an insurance, except whatever that is, and transact directly with whoever you want to transact.
Disintermediation and removing middlemen is kind of like a broad stroke, right? And you and I know how that can be applied. But to say our listeners who aren't in the space, what are the best use cases you can imagine with that kind of principle in mind?
Some of the best use cases that we have seen, I mean, of course, the Bitcoin one and the cryptocurrencies one, it's probably one of the best that's been done so far. But the entire realization of a new financial ecosystem is also a big one, with all the DeFi, etc. They've been important one. This is one of the best. To me, in general, is the whole tokenization aspect as well, and digitalization is probably one of the best use cases for blockchain, because you can now digitize anything, knowing, and that's another aspect of the blockchain, knowing that you own the only copy. So blockchain also solves the double spending mechanism. That's what Satoshi in the white paper was trying to do. And what that is, somebody will say, hey, okay, you don't double spend, I can use a third party. No, because you can double spend, you can finally solve the digitalization problem. which means there's no digital copy of any other thing. So whatever you own digitally, it is yours. And that opens then to millions of use cases. In our case at VeChain, we talk about sustainability, because in the same way you want to make sure you have a financial privilege, I want to make sure you also have a sustainability privilege, which means sustainability goes back to you, digitizing whatever needs to be digitized, capturing the value and digitizing that value, and the value goes back to you. So digitalization, it's immense, because then allows, and tokenization in general allows to assign value to things, whatever they are. In our case, can be positive externalities in sustainability, even recycling a bottle, okay? Even things like that, or taking a bus, or walking to the coffee shop. That's a positive externality. It's yours, it's tracked. You then tokenize that, it becomes a token, whatever it is, and then it's yours. And why I can create other tokens? Because blockchain doesn't allow me to do that. Because we know what are the tokens that are being created. And why can't I steal the token of someone else and copy that one? Because there's blockchain that helps you avoiding that. And so it opens to millions of use cases. So to me, it's really the financial part, the DeFi, the crypto, has been an example of a bigger picture, which is tokenization and digitalization in general.
That's a really interesting point, because I was a bit surprised, given that we're about to go on to sustainability and everything that VeChain's doing, knowing their background and their mandate, that the first use case you mentioned was cryptocurrency. And I want to get like your really quick take before we go into the sustainability stuff is, what do you think about the crypto space generally?
Okay, I said this is the first use case because it's been the first use case that has been developed in blockchain. Bitcoin was the first one to come. And then DeFi followed over time. And then we realized, hold on a minute, we can tokenize anything. And tokenization and now sustainability. And that's where I think the greatest use case still lies. But in general, my take on the crypto space, it's an industry that is growing. It's an industry that is gaining institutional trust, and we are seeing with the ETF. It's an industry that, like many innovative industry, has gone through some tough time, has gone through the scammers, has gone through abuses, but that was the same for the web. I'm old enough to have been in this space, to have seen the web from day one. I was I think it was something like close to my 20s. And, I was coding without the web when I was 14. There was no web. Mm-hmm. And so then the web arrived, and the web companies there were some of them, you didn't know what they were doing. And I saw a lot of similarity in the crypto space. But to me, the crypto space is now effectively institutionalized. There's no question anymore whether the crypto is here to stay or not. It's done. Bitcoin is institutionalized. Even the European Union has said several times that they will work alongside with the crypto space. And I think the ECB is trying to also say, and I talk about ECB because they live in the European Union, but I think also in the UK is happening the same. Is trying to say we can work together and offer other services in the digital space. And then they talk about CBDC and other stuff that are still in the same space, but are supported by us. So they can be an alternative. And so that everyone will work together. So I think that my take on the crypto space now is everyone knows it exists. Everyone knows it's here. Now it's about what the large institutions are going to try to do is we can offer these services to others that are not really Web3 savvy, but also we can work alongside these services to offer similar services that are backed by large institutions. And the two worlds will not collide. I think they will work together.
Sure. I love that outlook. I completely agree. I think we are moving to this phase where a lot of people are now understanding the value proposition of digital assets, digital identity, all anchored by public blockchains. And that is related to the crypto space, but they're not separable. They are going to work together, I think, in the future as well. You touched on this idea of sustainability there again, and obviously that's the main focus of this episode. Yeah. So I want to move there because that's for all the good things that we can do with digital assets. The biggest gripe, in my opinion, that most people have with it at the minute is the energy consumption associated with something like Bitcoin. So I know a year ago, I think it was ranking 27th country in all the world for energy consumption. I think it doubled over the last year, right? So people have this issue. Greenpeace have tried to campaign against the use of Bitcoin and move to more sustainable technologies. So my question is, how important do you think this question of sustainability of the underlying technology is to its growth, to the whole growth of the Web3 space? And do you think it's actually being taken seriously by the space right now?
It depends what the Web3 application or use case you have at hand is trying to do, what the problem is trying to solve. A layer one blockchain or any Web3 blockchain application, the app that doesn't take into account sustainability cannot be taken seriously. If you say I work in sustainability, okay, I'm a layer one, and I'm building a platform for sustainability, whatever it does, carbon credits, recycling, anything, sustainability needs to be taken into account. Now, and you need to make sure your platform is sustainable, has a low carbon footprint, etc. That's what we did at VeChain. Okay, our first goal was we wanted to make it sustainable in many ways, not only in terms of energy footprint. And you can guys go into the website, you will see what's our carbon footprint there. You can use VeChain stats to measure the carbon footprint of all the transactions at VeChain. It's extremely low. It's the lowest probably out there. We did that in several ways. We have a very simple, consensus mechanism, which is a proof of authority. It's a round robin type of mechanism with a number of authorities, 101 that are there, well defined and KYC to enter the ecosystem. We have a low gas consumption, like really you can run transaction with a few millicents. And that's sustainability, which means accessibility to things, because sustainability is not only environment. If you look at the 17 sustainable goals, it's health, it's labor, it's governance, it's fair business practices, it's many other things. And the environment is a big part. It's energy, environment, etc. They're a big part. So you need to take sustainability seriously if you look at sustainability within your technology. Even things like the way we deploy our public nodes, the nodes that everyone used to access, we look at the cloud provider, and then we look, okay, what is your sustainable solution for the EC2 machines or for the storage or whatever it is? And we monitor that, okay, how can we get the lowest level possible? So you need to do that. Now, you raised the question of Bitcoin. Bitcoin does something else, though. And it's a large peer-to-peer network, was built for payments. Now they call it digital dollars. To me, it's a massive financial ecosystem. So you need to compare Bitcoin with all the infrastructure of all the financial ecosystems, central bank, etc., brought together, and the carbon footprint of those, and then you can really measure it. But it's a different use case, and I think there's a lot of talk about the sustainability of Bitcoin. I think the Bitcoiners are also aware of that, and I think they're working towards that. I think there is somebody even talks about a green machine now. Like it's actually a green machine. Why it's a green machine? How can it be? Well, the energy, I think there's a percentage, half of the energy used is renewables now for Bitcoin. That's not too bad. It's pushing for innovation. Okay, how can we get energy that is sustainable and we can do good? Actually, we can still maintain the Bitcoin net. So in the end, it's what I'm trying to say, that sustainability becomes a problem for everyone. If you're a sustainability layer, sustainability platform, it's paramount. But also in other networks, is becoming a common topic. The Ethereum, at the time, the Ethereum move to proof of stake went into that direction, removing proof of work. Proof of stake is one of the things that Ethereum said, we're now more sustainable, which is good.
Yeah, I think it's a really good point that you raised there. And Bill Gates' book, How to Avoid a Climate Disaster, he really emphasizes the point that the goal of sustainability isn't to just stop development and say we're not going to use any more energy, because that's not good for humanity, right? Development has saved far more lives than it has cost us so far. So his whole point is we should just make sure that all development and all projects that we move forward with now have sustainability in mind. Is the value worth the amount of energy we're using? And I think on the point of Bitcoin, I think if we, originally considered Bitcoin in its original implementation as this electronic peer-to-peer cash system, right? The utility right now is maybe questionable. It seems more and more that Bitcoin's being used as this kind of digital gold rather than digital dollars, where it's actually not being used to exchange, it's just being used for speculation. What I would say is some of the work that you're doing at VeChain, I think, is much more focused on the utility and the real world value to be provided. And you've touched on it a bit there, but could you give us a little bit of information about VeChain's inception? What was the goal there? How did it start, and what are you working on?
I think VeChain was started with Sunny Lu, who was at the time CIO Louis Vuitton, with the idea. He saw that as a good way to start solving a number of real world problems. Okay, so Sunny said, okay, this could be used, for instance, for anti-counterfeiting, could be used for track and trace and the fair supply chain. These are all sustainability issues, by the way. Many people say to VeChain, why you moved from supply chain, track and trace to sustainability? Because it's the same thing, guys. Literally, it's just sustainability is a wider thing. So Sunny idea was this one. We can bring actually the blockchain layer one technology into real world problems and solve real world issues. And then he set up VeChain, I think 2015. Usual VC type of stuff at the beginning, investments, etc. Then in 2017, Sunny ran an ICO, and the VeChain team ran an ICO, and they went live on the 30th of June, 2018. Okay, and with the goal in mind, valuable transactions. That was the thing. Anything that runs on VeChain needs to be a real transaction. They started with track and trace, packaging things, product passport, which were NFTs. We didn't know there were NFTs at the time. At the time, I was still in Deloitte, but I had met Sunny in 2018 in New York at Consensus, and I said, can we work together because I like it? Now, there were a couple of things to do. Sunny got the use cases, so like product passport, so on. When you have a product passport, then you can track, because it's blockchain and it's a truth machine, you can track the provenance, you can track the materials, you can have everything in the passport and give it kind of a sustainability footprint of that product already. So at the time, we were looking more at anti-counterfeit because it was a huge issue. It's hundreds of billions that get burned. It's a serious one. But one thing noticing, like the question is why we created VeChain and we didn't use anything else. They were just not enterprise ready. For a layer one to be used by enterprises, there were too many problems. One is the fluctuation of the price. Let's say you're a CTO or a CIO, you put a budget, and my operation budget to run this anti-counterfeit platform, let's say done by Walmart, like it's a use case that we have, or H&M and others. Let's say it's $50,000 a year. Okay, that's the operational cost of the platform. All of a sudden, you go to your CIO or your CEO and you say, well, that token price has gone 10x, so it's now 10x. And you're like, okay, we're talking back in the days. Now everyone is going to solve this problem. So we created at the time a double token mechanism to avoid that. There was another thing, for instance, by the way, let's say you're a large enterprise, I need to buy crypto to run this platform. So I need the token or the gas, as we call it in the Web3 space. So I need the cryptocurrency that underpins this blockchain to pay for gas fees. So to pay for computation, what is gas fees? What do you pay? You literally pay the instructions. Every instruction that the blockchain machine does has a price in gas. That's what we do. And that's the way it's priced, by the way, for everyone to know. And when you have a large institution, you buy a digital asset. There are a lot of concerns there, not because they're bad by any chance, but you need to put into balance sheet. There is a financial position then that you have. There is a security concern. What is the security? Well, you have to store safely this financial asset. You need to make sure it's integrated safely from wherever it is into the application that then calls the blockchain and passes the financial assets to the miners or to the authorities in our case. And this was a huge issue. Like you go to somewhere like large institutions that does, logistics, and then you say, great. Now you need to buy 2 million in this crypto to run the platform. And then I'm like, well, how do I do that? And I don't have the infrastructure to store that. We're talking about 2017, 18, 19. I don't even know how to store that. We didn't have many institutional wallet as a service provider, institutional custody, let me call it like. The right term is institutional custody providers. There are many nowadays. Not enough, but still there are a lot more. So how do I store all of this? So what we created at VeChain, we said, okay, we're going to have a fee delegation system, which is now becoming already known by other platforms, and Ethereum has created the account abstraction, where you say, okay, I run the transaction, and on the transaction I say, between the authorities of VeChain, one of them will pay from my transaction fee. And then I will settle that transaction in fiat afterwards, behind the scenes, normally as a normal. That created a massive, because all of a sudden it was, okay, everyone can use this thing. All I need is an authority that pays for me, and there are several. And we even had projects at VeChain, and an example is VeChain Energy, which say, hey guys, I'm here offering energy services, so I can act as a delegation for you, which is incredible. And then, of course, there was also a problem. Who runs this blockchain? It's fully decentralized. Okay, but where is the ledger going to be stored? I know the ledger is public, anyone, but we need to know who runs that. And it needs to be fast as well. So we looked and we decided, okay, let's create a bulk of authorities, a system with 101 authorities, and they are KYC. The steering committee is elected by the community, but then they review the authorities, they approve, and they say, okay, these are the authority members. There is a system that, yes, is maintained by a closed number, but is still fairly large, but that the large enterprises could work.
Just really quickly there, we're talking about proof of authority right now, the consensus mechanism that governs VeChain. So one of the phrases I have heard to describe this is it's a governance model that balances centralized and decentralized.
And decentralized,
would you take that would you think that's a fair comment?
Yeah, it's a fair comment. It's not fully decentralized. We say in the white paper, it's not fully centralized. It balances out the speed that you need to get a consensus fairly quickly versus the fact that you want one centralized authority to govern the whole ecosystem. So it goes to 101 authorities. Each one of them has equal power to have the momentum to generate a block and to basically validate it. And then there's a mechanism of validation once the block is published. It's round robin, by the way, and we have a token that we call finality token, where we say after a few seconds that block is published, we say, hey, by the way, this is final now. And finality is something that, by the way, concerns a lot of organizations, because anything that you do in the crypto space is actually probabilistic. It's a longer mathematical discussion, but is this thing really final or not? It poses question, even legally speaking. So we try to solve all these things, because why we try to solve those? Because Sun in particular, he was working with business people and he knew all the challenges. And he said, let's try to create something and these guys can use. Over the years then, Alec, we continue, we develop track and trace use cases, phygitals, so link between a physical object, giving it a digital passport, effectively. Digital twins, some people have called it. And we had a product like Toolchain. We still have multiple tagging solutions. And you can tag your shoes, your whatever, anything, your shirt, your phone, your books, anything you want. Bottle of wines, food. There's now World of V, which is a marketplace running on the chain there. I think there's just a serious number of bottle of wines they have tagged. You can go there and check the numbers. And that kept going and kept growing. Then we did, the idea of digital identity for businesses, which were NFTs basically, which we did in Deloitte in 2019. We said, can we create the ISO certification, which is effectively, it gives you the ability to operate in a certain area because you're certified. So it's a passport, effectively, for a business. We digitized that. And I think that week, April 2019, VeChain passed the number of transactions of Bitcoin for about a week. That was me and Deloitte working with the VeChain team, pushing in these digital passports all day. And then at some point, I spoke to Sun in 2021, and he said, why don't you join us as leader of SDG? We are turning into sustainability. I said, tell me more, what it is that you want to do. And I like what he had in mind, which is the idea that Web3 tries to do. It's give power to the people again. The Web3 is an evolution of Web 1 too. We get to Web3, of course. If there's a Web3, there's been a Web 1 and 2. The Web 1 is hypertext. and chatting. Guys, you're probably younger than me, but that was what we were doing. Web 2 is this one. What we see now is content creation. It's really you are the web as a person, as an individual, because you throw stuff on the web. You create the content. Just the data that is generated on the web 2 is insane. But who owns that is the problem. And Web 3 goes back to say, okay, we solved that problem of ownership. Now let's go back to sustainability. Sunny idea was, hey, hold on a minute. Web3 can be used for better. Web3 can be used sustainability, because all we do is now change the narrative from, okay, sustainability, what it is. It's a number of regulation, a number of fines, and a number of buy this so that you can say you're sustainable, versus Web3 is, it's you, the individual, your behavior, and because you are being sustainable, the money goes back to you. So sustainability becomes an incentive system. And I was like, hold on a minute. We do the sustainability what with the Web3, what the DeFi and others have done for the financial system, give it back to everyone. Yes. And I said, and that was October 2021.
Wow, that makes a lot of sense.
Where we're from.
Yeah. And there's so many little threads I want to pull on in the tapestry you painted there. But I think how you finished there is a crucial one, right? Because you started by talking about the fact that sustainability is much more than just how much energy you're using. A lot of it is actually to do with the applications. You mentioned double spending at the start. I'm aware that in the carbon credits world, they kind of have a double spending problem of their own. And how do you verify that carbon credits have been used in one place and not another? So there are so many applications, and you're touching on the behavioral aspects there as well. So I've seen, for example, in Scotland, there's a plastic bottle recycling scheme where they're offering these micro incentives of like 20p to go and recycle bottles. And I think there is a narrative shift now in this X to earn economy, right? These small shifts. Do you think that's where things are heading?
The problem, Jack, and yes, and that's what we are doing at VeChain. We launched the VeBetterDAO last week in Amsterdam, I think the 28th of February, in alpha mode. So it's going to go fully live in a few weeks' time, but it is live effectively. We were just leveraging testnet to get to that level, to incentivize X to earn application to be together. What is one problem you described there, Jack? Recycling bottles, you get an incentive, you get a token that you can then spend only where you get it. A sustainability challenge cannot be solved vertically. It has to bring everyone together. So we need to create an ecosystem where everyone is together, because you touched on the carbon credit spending. Spend there. Could there be a double spending problem on carbon credit? Of course, there could be, and there has been. Could there be fake carbon credit generation? Oh yeah, there's been. By the way, check the news. What did I say at the beginning? Solving the double spending problem and trust at the beginning, knowing who is giving the carbon credit and where is it going. So I think where we are going here is to creating what we are trying to do at VeChain, create an ecosystem where all sustainability apps, let's call it like that, and behavior are brought together into one ecosystem. Either you're working or you're studying, you're learning, because that's a sustainable behavior. You're getting better in anything you do. You're recycling. You are driving less. You're taking the bus. It's your decision, by the way. And you are incentivized for that. And if we can get into this head of X to earn, can you then install a solar panel and sell your energy and get an app that does that? Can you do a million things? And then you're like, hold on a minute. Sustainability is good for me because I'm getting incentivized. And there is a thing of gamification, yes, but maybe gamification has been here for 20 years. But there is an aspect of capturing the value of what you do. And then you get assigned that value because it's yours. And it's only yours. And by the way, you own that value and you decide what to do with that value. With the VeBetterDAO, that value that is generated, we try to capture it. We incentivize the apps.
I really like how you've led on to this, but if you go on the VeChain website, you see this VeBetterDAO, the name of which I really love, by the way. I think it's great. Yeah. Can you explain, because we haven't really covered DAOs in much detail. Can you explain first at high level what they are and why VeChain is using the VeBetterDAO as the mechanism to achieve this X to earn kind of economy that you're talking about?
Yeah. VeBetterDAO is a DAO, it's a decentralized autonomous organization. So it's a Web3 application that runs on VeChain. So there are a series of smart contracts. A DAO means that there is behind a community of voters that can decide on issues. What VeBetterDAOs focus on it's on X2Earn apps, application in the sustainability space that want to incentivize good behavior. Okay. And what the VeBetterDAO does is it has a double token mechanism. One is better and one is vote free. Better is a token for better. It's the token that in the end people receive for their good behavior. It's literally the ultimate value generation of a sustainable behavior, of a positive externality. You can swap that better token with another token which is called vote free. As a sustainable person, maybe that better token I want to use to vote on the VeBetterDAO. And what are you going to vote on? For now, what you're going to vote on is what are the applications that you want into VeBetterDAO. I don't like that application. That application, guys, and then there's Discord. People are going to chat there. The application is not, they didn't allocate the better well last time. I think that it's not tracked properly. Let's kick them out. I'm going to vote the others. I like this one. There's going to be a quadratic voting and funding mechanism in place. It's not there yet, but we're talking about weeks. Okay. So as you know, the quadratic voting for the audience here means it's kind of an economics mathematical issue. Voting is never right. Like voting is always difficult. It's one of the most difficult things to do in life, but really hard to do. But a quadratic voting means allows you to put more votes into an issue that is in your heart, because by having better, let's say you have 1,000 better, you can vote everything in one app, but they also make sure that you just don't kill all the others. So it distributes in a fair way. It's like emotions, but avoid manipulation. It's like putting your heart into things, but not too much. Let's avoid manipulation as well, because not everyone has a good. So in the end, it's a sustainability platform that tries to attract X2Earn apps and to tell them, by the way, if you're part of us and you generate value and it's visible, that value is going to come through a better token to you. We can allocate better tokens to you. And the ultimate utility of the tokens is several things. It's the value itself that you're generating, you can use to vote into the platform. And in the future, and that's why we're building a larger ecosystem, it's about what the apps will be able to come up with to how to use the better token. You could have a loyalty points somewhere, or you could use to offset carbon somewhere else. So we are working on utility at the moment. The thing is, the utility is so big because this is the first time that I see a DAO that is so open. Because if you look at all the DAOs that we have so far, one thing that is always in any DAO design that you see, there's always that thing, token goes out, stake, we generate more here, goes back into the trash. We have a bit of that, but reality is that when it goes out, our token, it goes very far. It can go into thousands of sustainability apps. And they can come up with their own tokenomics, by the way, which could wrap up better maybe. They could do anything else. And then they use better internally to vote themselves for their own tokenomics. So you're like, hold on a minute. Here we are up to something good, because it is the first time where someone unleashes a token within an ecosystem in such a way. It's very brave in my view, but that's the only way you can do it, because sustainability is everyone's challenge, it's multi-industry. If you don't do that, what is the other solution? Okay, let's say I think we need to make sure there's a utility. What you're going to do, you go vertical. You solve one problem. You say, okay, I want to solve the problem of recycling. And when the plastic bottle generates the token, then you can spend the token into the shop. Or you can redeem into an exchange. Good. Well done. Not good enough. Maybe that token you want to use to offset something, or to buy energy on another platform, or to charge your EV car, or to get a bike with that token to cycle to work, and then you get even more tokens. Or you want to vote for another. Sustainability is about a collective impact, and then we are, how many we are? 10 billions on the planet. If each one of us does very little, like how much we're going to achieve. So that's why the token design is so brave. I have to say that once we launched, the community was like, oh, this is big. It's very big. And there was a lot of positive reaction, there was criticism as well to say, okay, the tokenomics is complex, but it's just part of the journey, to be honest with you.
It's very exciting. Like I looked us through some of the white paper, and you are right. It does seem very big, but we have to be big to solve big problems in a lot of ways, right? And I think the idea of, I know we don't like, maybe the term gamification is a bit outdated these days, but the idea of X to earn models in society, like you can imagine in the future governments incentivizing exercise or healthy eating or planting trees and all this kind of stuff. Like you say, you don't just want to solve one problem, you want an entire ecosystem that's supported through this X to earn model. I love the idea of community voting, and there's such a problem right now with, say, reviews. Are they real? Are they authentic? And the idea of linking tokens, whatever you want to call them, to actual purchases, actual transactions, and being able to prove, I did use this service, so this is a review that I'm allowed to say, and it is genuine and authentic, is so powerful. And I love the idea of having this ecosystem that supports that with having tokens linked to actual usage of the service. This kind of worldview is mind-blowing. I love it. It's so exciting.
Yeah.
So VeChain went from early days product passport type stuff to Fidgetals. Now you're talking about DAOs. What are some of the biggest issues in the future that you're excited to tackle at VeChain?
The VeBetterDAO scale, first of all, is for me the thing. I'll be honest with you, Alec and Jack, this is the biggest thing I ever worked on. And I've done big things in my life. When I was doing big data, I've done data lakes for large government institutions that were insane. But here you can touch everyone. So it's the biggest thing I ever done. And I have a sense of like it's a mission. Okay. It's a mission not only for the planet, it's a mission for everyone, because I think we need sustainability. It's like a privilege. Check on one's privilege. Do you have financial privilege? You got to have the sustainability privilege as well. It needs to be yours, and you need to get the benefits of being sustainable. So my biggest challenge is, how do we scale this? We know how this is going to scale, but in front of us, Alec, if I ask you, and Jack, guys, if I ask you now, how many extra up you can come up to your mind? We do a workshop. You're probably going to come up with 100. Just as a half an hour workshop with Sunny in Dublin, we came up with Cleanify and Magshot ourselves. Then we're speaking to tons of. We went to a hackathon in Boston last year. It was October at Harvard, and the kids, the students, came up with, I don't know how many extra maps. One of them won, actually. And they were English guys from, I don't want to be wrong, from the Cambridge University, the Movelo guys. Go and check their website. And they won. But there were others that are applying for grants, just setting up. So you could come up yourself with 100 of those. Now, imagine if you do these type of workshops in any industry. This multiplies, like it goes exponential. And then all of a sudden you got 20, 30, 40,000 apps that are. So I think the next year will be okay, where we will get into the tens, the hundreds, and then the exponential curve, the way it does. and that's to me, that's the biggest challenge as VeChain. And then being able to make sure the core protocol responds to that, being able to make sure the core protocol, we are a layer 1 protocol, is interoperable with the Ethereum ecosystem, is interoperable with all the other, because if you want to be open, then you have to be open also with apps that are running on Ethereum, apps that are running on Cardano. Otherwise, you're not open. And so that's my second biggest challenge, that the core protocol is able to serve. And that, I think, where our research will go, probably one of the things where our research will go, making sure interoperability is there. Scalability is then becomes a big concern. But I'll be honest with you, Alec, the design itself of Better is it pushes down to people and apps rather than Apple. So a lot of transactions will be on the edge, like really at phone level, at IoT level, etc. And then probably we will see, which is sustainability, by the way. Transaction at the edge means that you're using the computing at the edge means that you're using your computing power of the thing you have at hand. There's less traffic, there's less, and it's all more sustainable. These are my challenges. At the personal level, the challenge is also to make sure, as a CTO, my team follows me. I was asked, we had our CTO event in Belfast. We gathered 3-4 times a year. And one of the questions I got asked, what is the thing that keeps you awake at night? is making sure my team follows me, like my team believes in me. Because Web3 is a space where, I've been a leader of multiple organizations and with tens of people, hundreds of people. In Web3, I have to be honest, Alec and Jack, you got the top notch of the people. Some of the brightest minds are in this space, and they don't buy easily. Anything you say is very scrutinized. They don't buy anything, which is the right thing. You say something and they answer, it's not making sense. So my biggest concern, it's like coaching Real Madrid. I always say that, or coaching Manchester United, or coaching whatever team you prefer, guys, but that has to be a top notch. Can you really coach these players? Can you teach them how to play football? No, but maybe you can teach them how to play together, and you can show them a vision. And the goal is, let's get this team of very talented people, which are very hard to work with because they're very smart, and they just don't go. If I say do X, I say, why should I do X? Do you have a good explanation? Why should I? And so the other challenge is really to getting everyone within my team to but I think Sunny is doing a fantastic job, and is there, he has inspired everyone. There is a feeling of VeChain of that we are on a mission because we really see it. We know that the journey is going to be pumped because you're not trying to deliver an app. Here's the app. Stone works. Oh, I have Alpha Media. It's not a wallet. VWord was fantastic. You have 600,000 users now. It's good. It's a great product. Works. But it's a wallet. That's one thing. Well, a number of things. It's about tokens. Yeah. Here you talk about building an ecosystem, democratic, quadratic funding and quadratic voting to attract all the sustainability apps in the world, to incentivize the end user, to basically become the underpinning layer for all sustainability efforts in the world for the next 20 years.
It's a big and bold vision, as Alex said, and I can attest to your experiences. Even just working with Alec on this podcast, it takes a lot to get an idea through him. You have these big brains in Web3. They're not easy to convince, so I can definitely attest to that.
No, Jack.
But I think that's the nature of the beast, though, right? Again, people are in this space to change the world fundamentally, as you've described with VeChain. It's the biggest thing you've ever worked on because of the potential impact of it, not necessarily the technical complexity. But
actually, Web3 should be the opposite, like, tiny app and fat protocols. Like, let's do one thing quickly, an exercise. Without blockchain, how long do you think it's going to take you to create a digital token? With blockchain, we can do that. Probably if we use Vorge, me and you, which is a VeChain product, may take 5 seconds. So that how long it's going to create a currency? Okay, even 5 seconds. Without blockchain, how long that may take? Maybe a few years. The technology is getting there, is less complex, but the problems you are trying to solve then are more complex, which is the thing that you want to do.
Exactly. And I think, again, there are so many other strands in this episode that we didn't have time to cover. And I hope we have you on again in the future to go through them, because there are, so many things my mind's worrying about now. But I think we've covered really nicely the whole sustainability story for now, at least, and we'll maybe check in when VeBetterDAO is fully fledged in the future. So, Antonio, we like to end every show by asking our guests 2 kind of standard questions, and we like to compare people's answers and see how they change over time. So, if you're ready, I'll ask you the first one, which is, in one sentence only, what is Web3 to you?
It's a force for better. Web3 is a force for better. That's what it is. It's a thing for better, but that's the sentence. It's a force for better. I can elaborate on that. It's a thing to do better things. For us, is to drive sustainability, because sustainability, only technology can solve a sustainability challenge, not the other way around. Not eliminating technology, but give better technology. It's an ally to sustainability, Web3 for me, but it does better everywhere. It does better, can do better in the financial system, giving access to banking to the unbanked, can give access to financial instruments to others that were not available until today, to everyone. It's a source for better. In any way you see it, you can have ownership of your own identity, self-sovereign in terms of data. How many other good things I can say about Web3? And that's why I say it's a source for better. It's a force, for better. It's because it's a space that has been under criticism for a long time, and maybe for too long. I don't think it deserved that. but sometimes we did as a group of in this industry. And lately there was a time, probably a year and a half ago, after the FTX case, where people, some very senior individuals in large organizations, banks, etc., were even saying we need to pull the plug to the whole Web3 industry, ban Bitcoin, ban any Web3 effort, ban the technology. Seriously, you ban a technology. It's not, it's
Yeah.
not the technology, it's software. And there were even things that, like, and we should also make sure we don't hire anyone in the future that has ever worked in a Web3 company. And I saw these threads going around. I don't know if you ever saw that, guys.
A little
And
bit,
that
yeah.
really caught me. Like, we are trying to do well in the world. We're trying to transform the world into a better place. So let me tell you, the Web3 is a force for better. Thank you. So that's why we say Web3 for better.
Yeah, and I think that's a beautiful way of summarizing the mission, or the fact that it's a visionary and missionary industry that everyone feels kind of motivated in that way. And if ChatGPT was to summarize this episode, I'm sure it would come out with something like Web3 is a force for better. So I love that.
By the way, ChatGPT also has a VeBetterDAO chatbot. So go there. If you want information about VeBetterDAO, yeah, we just developed it. We launched 2 days ago. So
brilliant. We'll link that in the episode show notes for sure if anyone wants to go and find out more. That's great. So yeah, the final question, Antonio, then is, so if you could pick anyone on the planet or from throughout history, or they could even be fictional, to sit down and discuss this force for better Web3 with, who would that be and why?
There were 2 people I was thinking about, to be honest. One is, and probably everyone will tell you the same, but it's probably really Elon Musk, but because he talks about energy transition a lot, and he has a point into many things. And just to explain, I don't think he talks much about how Web3 can enable this energy transition, which is one part of sustainability. I think I would love to have a discussion with him about that. And of course, on the other end, Friedman, which was the Nobel Prize laureate for economy decades ago, to explain that, yes, there is a solution for financial freedom as well. These are the 2 people I would love to. We managed to get to a solution to achieve financial freedom, which he described, by the way, already I think it was in the 80s or early 90s, where he imagined a digital currency back in the day. So the 2 of them, one from the past is no longer with us, that spoke about financial freedom, and the other one who is alive, it talks about energy transition, which means energy freedom and sustainability, freedom for sustainability. And the 2 of them.
It's a really good answer. I'm surprised there are 2 new answers as well that we don't often get. We get a lot of repetition, but there are 2 new answers. I'm surprised no one's actually mentioned Elon Musk before.
Because everyone talks about him, Alec, and I was very, but he's a driver around energy transition. He's a leader in this space, and he needs to know more about Web3. But he knows, he has his knowledge there. He has his Bitcoins.
Yeah, he definitely has an impact in the crypto industry. I think any tweet on any coin always just moves it straight away, which is funny. But Antonio, thank you so much. This has been an incredible episode. We've learned so much, and I am so very excited to see what the impact and effects of VeBetterDAO are going to be. Yeah, everyone try and check that out, because that's going to be a very big and exciting project. But Antonio, thank you for joining us, and thank you to those listening wherever you may be, and join us next time as we untangle a little more of Web3.
Thank you, Alec and Jack, and thank you, everyone. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Untangling Web3, produced by Emma Camilleri.
Don't forget to send us your thoughts, questions, and comments on social media, and be sure to follow us on your favorite podcast provider to catch the next episode. See you next time to untangle a little bit more of Web3.
The views we express here are our own and do not reflect the views of our employers.